Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Oberheid, and I work at Kansas State University as the Director of International Admissions. And I would like to present this webinar to you to prepare for your studies in the United States. I would also like to introduce my presenter. First of all, just a little about me. I studied abroad as an international student, and I have 13 years of experience in immigration and as well as admissions. And Logan, my co-presenter, is my colleague and will introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Logan Gabi. As Kristen mentioned, I am an international student recruiter, and I studied here at K-State during my time. So throughout the presentation, we're going to talk about just general studies in the U.S., but we may throw in a few examples of K-State because it's something we're familiar with. I as well studied abroad as an undergraduate student, so I kind of have that international student experience as well to be able to draw on.
So our goal today is just to provide you general information about planning for a potential study in the United States as a degree-seeking student in higher education. So we will talk about the admission process and what happens afterwards, potentially some things for you to consider about how to choose the right university or college for you. And I will go into a little detail about immigration-related things because I do have many years of expertise with immigration. And Logan will talk about planning your arrival to the United States and what generally to expect during your first week. And I will follow up finally with some tips and tricks we've learned about adjusting to your new environment if you choose to study in the United States. Our goal here is just to prepare you in general for study in the United States, no matter which college or university you choose. So you will see in our presentation that we may give it examples about Kansas State, but what our goal is to give you general information to help prepare you no matter where you study. So if you've been admitted to a college or university, they will send you admission documents. There are different processes at different universities and colleges as to how they do so. They may admit you first. They may ask for additional information or confirmation before they send you your immigration documents. But the key thing that I want to focus on is the immigration document, which you will eventually receive if you choose a university or college. That university or college will send you a Form I-20 or a Form DS-2019 that is issued on behalf of Homeland Security through the college or university. That is an immigration document that is extremely important, and I will continue to explain why that is important during the course of this webinar. They will send you an admission letter, and I would like to say congratulations on whatever admission you receive to whichever college or university you apply to. When you receive documents from the university or college, the most important thing for you to do is confirm the information is correct, that your biographical information has been appropriately specified, and that your degree of choice and so on, all of these details, your birthday, all of these things are correct. So you would notify your college or university once you receive your immigration document if you see any mistakes, and you would sign or date your I-20 or DS-2019. I want to take a moment and explain why there's I-20 and DS-2019 both here. I-20 is the most common international student document. Probably 90% of international students hold a F1 status, and F1 status correlates to the I-20 immigration document. There are a few students for specific reasons who hold a different status, which is called J1, and their document is called DS-2019. Through the course of this webinar, we will refer to I-20 more often, but these documents are so similar that if I refer or we refer to I-20, the DS 2019, if you happen to be one of the minority who is going to be J1 status, it would be the same thing because these are all documents in the CVIS system, which is from the Homeland Security, and it's been produced by the school. Most of you will be receiving an I-20 document from your college or university. So if you've been accepted to multiple universities, how do you choose? These are just some suggestions of what to consider. You may already have applied to universities based on some of these decisions. If you are interested in a larger or smaller school, if you're interested in living on campus and being very close by and being very integrated into the college or university experience versus commuting or living off campus, you want to probably consider the size of the city or the surroundings and whether you think it's beneficial to you to have a smaller city or a larger city, and whether that would be beneficial to you to be in a large metropolitan environment while you're studying or in a smaller environment where you may be able to focus more on your studies. You also want to consider what the overall cost of the university is, and that should be clear from the information they provide you, because you always have to prove, based on Department of Homeland Security requirements, the first year of cost. The first year of cost is always an estimate. It includes tuition and fees, it includes housing and food, and cost of living and insurance. But it's only an estimate, but you do want to be factoring that in with your family situation and your personal situation and what that impact would be for you personally with your family. You may also be interested in considering what types of degrees the university offers. If you are interested, for example, in an associate's degree, that's a 2-year degree, usually offered at a community college, sometimes also offered at 4-year or college or university programs. A bachelor's degree, which is probably the most common for people coming out of high school or a similar system such as IB or a Cambridge program. But you might want to also look at how the transition would be and if they offer degrees that are at the graduate level, such as master's or doctorate, and how that could impact your goals and if you would like to transition into a higher level of degree study. And finally, another thing to consider is what services and support does the school provide? This is a difficult thing to figure out before you arrive, but my advice to you would be reach out and ask a lot of questions before you arrive to gain some understanding of what services and support are available and how supportive the school is to you as someone who has not yet made the decision to arrive and to attend the university. There's an important distinction I would like to make, and I'm going to transition now into some immigration-related topics. So, as I said, most students receive a Form I-20 document, and this is an example. You can see clearly there's an F1 related there on the upper right-hand corner. And the other, like I said, there's a small group of students who receive J1 documents. They're very similar in structure, and there's not a whole lot of difference in terms of what the status means. There are very small differences. What I would like to highlight is when you receive this document, as I mentioned, it's a critical immigration document for you, and you want to review it very carefully. Make sure that the information matches what you believe it should. If you have any questions about it, you should contact your admissions office and ask for clarification. And then the second thing I really want to clarify, because this is often misunderstood. The visa, we talk about visas very often in popular culture, about visas being expired. But what I would like to highlight here is a visa is not related to your stay as an international student. A visa, I think the most accessible way for me to explain a visa is that it allows you to knock on the door of the United States and ask for permission to enter in addition to your immigration document, I-20. The visa is issued outside the US, so you would go for your visa interview before coming. It allows you to enter the US legally along with this important immigration document, I-20 or DS-2019. And the visa expiration does not determine the length of your stay. This is very highly misunderstood. There's a lot of confusion about this in popular culture and with just generally how students feel about their visa. They think the visa is the most important thing. The visa allows you to arrive and enter into the United States. The I-20 document, or DS-2019, actually has your legal stay listed. And you can see in the middle of the I-20 example here we give, you can see the program of study section. There's a program start date and there's a program end date. And those can be adjusted by the school depending on your progress and depending on whether you need more time. For example, if you add another major or if you end up finishing early with transfer credits and so on. And the I-20 is what allows your legal stay. If a visa is expired, this is a key thing to understand. If a visa is expired, you are not in any kind of trouble inside the United States. The visa in your passport, which we will show you an example of, has nothing to do with your legal stay. In fact, this other document, which we're showing you right now, shows how long you can stay in the United States, and it can be updated by your school depending on your progress. The visa does not allow you to stay in the United States. Rather, the I-20 or the DS-2019 allows you to stay, and that can be updated by your school. The visa simply allows you to come and arrive to the US and ask for entry. So if your visa expires, that is something to consider for travel, and I will go into that a little further later. So once you review your immigration document, you would sign and date it at the bottom, and then you would prepare for your visa interview. Before you schedule your visa interview, we recommend first to just get a general sense of the wait times at your local consulate. We've provided a link here where you can find the local consulate wait times, and here's an example. In Mumbai, this at the time, the time here says that the appointment wait time is 19 calendar days for a student exchange visitor visa. That means at the time when you schedule your visa interview, you will have to wait approximately 19 days until that visa interview occurs. And then below that, you can see processing time. Processing time means after your visa interview, if all goes well, hopefully, then there will be 2 working days so that they can get the visa placed in your passport, that visa entry document. Before you schedule your visa interview, there are a couple steps you need to take. One is to pay a CVIS I-901 fee. This fee goes to Department of Homeland Security, and you can pay the fee, and there are clear instructions at the link provided here, fmjfee.com. Most people can pay with credit card and print out a receipt directly online. So generally, the process is pretty simple to meet that requirement, but it must be done before your visa interview. And you also need to fill out the non-immigrant visa application. And we have provided the link here, and you should print that out as well and bring that to your interview. The interview, as I mentioned, is a non-immigrant interview. And so I will go into a little more detail about what that means on the following slides. So to locate where your nearest consulate or embassy is, you can follow the link that we've provided here. And then each consulate has a different procedure as to how to schedule your visa interview. So you need to locate your local consulate and then go to that website and schedule your visa interview according to their instructions. Because it varies. It varies by country and it varies by consulate. Sometimes there are multiple consulates in one country and sometimes there is only one. In certain places, there are no consulates in a particular country and you would go to the closest one to your local jurisdiction. When you go to a visa interview, you want to absolutely take that critical immigration document that was issued by your school that you have chosen, the I-20 or DS 2019, the DS 160, which is the visa application, which we talked about on the last slide, and also the printed receipt that you paid the CVIS fee, which we also provided the link for on the last slide. Here we say K-State admission letter. You would want to bring the admission letter from the university that you choose that matches your I-20. And I also recommend that you take also with you financial documents that match what you provided the school, that also match what is listed on your I-20. Because as you know, if you've gone through the process, there's a requirement from Homeland Security to provide a first year of funding source. So if you can bring those documents with you, that could be helpful. I also recommend if there's any proof of ties you have, and proof of ties, what I mean by that is if you have any connections to your home country that you can provide evidence of in some format. Most students do not have property that they own. Most students do not have a job waiting for them when they get back. But even something as simple as a family letter writing about your commitments to your family, that could be helpful to prove non-immigrant intent. And I will explain non-immigrant intent a little bit further on the next slide. So again, as I said, each consulate has its own procedure. You will check the procedures on the web at the local consulate where you should interview. Again, the local consulate should be the one closest to your permanent residence. What occurs at the visa interview is a biometric data collection. They will collect some fingerprint scans and actually an eye scan as well, and that goes into the database, and it is associated with your visa, which will be printed in your passport. You will have an interview with a consular officer. This interview is often very short. Sometimes you have to sit in the embassy or consulate and wait to be called for your interview, but most students report that the interview is very quick and it may take like only 3 to 5 minutes to actually have the interview itself. The interview, you should expect that the consular officer will be behind a glass window and they will ask you for documents through like a little passing through, kind of like a bank, like you pass through documents. Do not just throw all of your documents at them. just listen to what they want. If they ask you for your I-20, for example, then you pass them your I-20. Don't give them all of your documents at once and have them sort through them. Just follow their instruction and answer their questions. Establishing non-immigrant intent, I mentioned. Non-immigrant intent is legally a default for approving a U.S. visa for an international student, because the purpose of international study is meant to have you learn in the United States, gain experience, and then return to your home country. So one of the most common questions a consular officer may ask you in this very short interview is, why do you want to study in the United States? And so you should think about your answer to that, and you should think about how your study and your experience in the United States can benefit you upon return to your home country. If the interview goes well, you will receive that information directly following your interview. And you will also receive information as to how the visa will be put in your passport. It's a sticker. I'll show you an example. And the passport delivery system varies by consulate. So sometimes they will send it to you, sometimes you'll come pick it up, but they will instruct you based on your particular consulate as to how you pick it up. And for example, we looked at the Mumbai processing time of 2 days, and they should give you information as to how you would pick up your passport with that visa inside that allows you to knock on the door of the United States and then to be granted entry as an international student. If you do receive, unfortunately, a denial, most commonly the denial reason is because you failed to establish non-immigrant intent. So there is an understanding from the consular officers that students don't often have, as I said, property or jobs waiting for them, but it matters what you say in the interview. For example, if you say, I'm coming to study in the United States because my goal is to stay in the US forever because I love the US, that could potentially result in a denial. So I think my recommendation would be, think carefully about how your study and your experiences gained through your international student status in the United States would benefit you when you return home. If you receive a denial, the denial reason should be in writing, and you do have the opportunity to reapply. You can reapply, establishing more documentation to overcome the previous denial reason. So if you experience a denial, then I would recommend you contact your admissions office and get advice on possibly going again and trying to overcome whatever denial reason. And as I said, the most common one is the failure to demonstrate non-immigrant intent. So the entry visa, if all goes well, which hopefully it should, this is what it looks like, and it will be placed in your passport as a sticker. A couple of things I want to highlight here. This is obviously an example. It would have your picture. And let's look at first in the lower right-hand corner. It says M. This one is very common. Many people receive M as their entries. That means you can use this visa multiple times, as many times as you wish, until the expiration date. And you can see the issue date and the expiration date are also listed. The expiration date is highlighted in the lower left-hand corner. So also you want to check, of course, to make sure your demographic data is correct, your information is all right, and then you want to look at also, let's look at the upper right-hand corner in terms of the class of your visa. You want to make sure that it says F1, which again is the most common. If you have an I-20, it should say F1. If you have a DS 2019, it should say J2. If you see any problems with this, then you want to contact that consulate and get that corrected, because that's very important. So when you are planning on arriving to the US, this is also very extremely related to the visa interview. You have to have the I-20 that's been issued by a school designated by DHS, which means Department of Homeland Security, which is our federal agency that oversees student and exchange visitor programs. When you come into the US, you need to have a passport valid for at least 6 months. Your passport probably at this point is valid for many years, but just check it and make sure. And when you actually are entering the US, the Customs and Border Protection Officer could again ask you a question about what is your intention in the United States. And again, the same thing applies, is that it's a non-immigrant intent, and that you're here, and this is the language here that's quoted, is legal language, that you are here to pursue your study. If you have documents, as I mentioned, any documents or even just a verbal statement of, your intentions to return home and why the study will benefit you, just be prepared for that question, and don't necessarily bring it up unless they ask you. I do still recommend having the financial documents with you that match your I-20, and again, carrying that CVIS fee receipt that you had paid already before the visa interview, and you had printed out the receipt. So you can begin traveling, you can begin planning your travel to the US. Once you have your visa, I think that's probably the best strategy, to make sure that you have your visa and then you have not booked a plane ticket that could have extreme costs to it. So I'm going to pass it over to Logan now to talk a little more about this.
So after your interview and your visa has been approved, you can begin planning your travel to the US, like Kristen mentioned. You'll want to check with your school and also check on your either I-20 or DS-2019 to determine the official arrival date for that specific school. Each school's arrival date is different. It's specific to that school's academic calendar. So if you are admitted to multiple schools, don't just look at one of the I-20s and assume it's the same for all of them. It's going to be specific to whichever institution you intend on attending. But so look at that arrival date and plan to arrive no later than that specific date. That's the date that you have to cross into the United States, like to be within the US border. Also, you can arrive up to 30 days before that official arrival date. We typically don't recommend arriving exactly 30 days before. So maybe somewhere between 20 to 25 days before if you want to do some traveling around. But again, contact your school if you have any questions about whether housing may be available or what you can do within the surrounding area prior to starting your studies. But just know, if you arrive and you intend to arrive in the US on your student visa, your I-20 or your DS-20, using your I-20 or DS-2019, you cannot arrive any earlier than 30 days prior to that official start date.
One thing, Logan, if I can just jump in here, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, make sure that you have chosen your school before you go for your visa interview, because the visa will have listed the school upon it. And when you arrive to the US, the I-20 that you show, for example, if you chose Kansas State, just as an example, you need your visa to also reflect Kansas State for your initial arrival. So you should make your decision as to which school you will attend before your visa interview and before the visa is issued, because they have to match. The visa will say, for example, Kansas State, if you show the Kansas State I-20. You should not show multiple I-20s when you go for your visa interview. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that, so I apologize for interrupting you, Logan. Please proceed.
So items that you should have, like as you're arriving into the U.S., as you're packing your luggage and everything, some things to make sure you keep in mind that you pack within your carry-on luggage so it's easily accessible when you're at the customs and immigration counter at your U.S. port of entry. So you're going to want your I-20 or DS 2019, depending on your visa status. You're going to want your admission letter from the university that you have chosen to attend, your CVIS fee receipt, the passport that you have with your F1 or J1 visa in it, and make sure that your passport has at least 6 months of validity upon arrival, just because they want to make sure that your passport's not going to expire while you're in the U.S., because that may create complications as you're leaving. So just make sure that there's at least 6 months of validity left in your passport. And then as well as the proof of financial documents that you used when you were applying to the university and that you took with you to your visa interview. Those can just help you along the way. It's not required. You won't necessarily be asked to supply each one of those individually. However, it's best to be overly prepared as you're going through this, because you may not know exactly what they're going to ask you. They may ask you for one of those things. They may ask you for all of them. But it's better to be prepared with all of them from the get-go.
And in general, they absolutely will ask you for that crucial immigration document, the I-20, most commonly, or the DS 2019. And they will look at your passport and they will look for that visa. And they will make sure that you're within the arrival time according to your I-20 or DS 2019 according to entry date. I also just want to mention one more thing. Sometimes in international travel, baggage gets delayed. So in your carry-on bag, I would suggest to prepare for a delayed bag, because you may be carrying multiple bags. Obviously you're embarking on a huge journey, and in your carry-on, keep a couple days worth of stuff that can keep you going in case your baggage is delayed. Generally, airlines are pretty responsive when there is delayed baggage. They can deliver it to you, but in the case that you do not receive your baggage when you come through and arrive to the United States, you want to be able to at least have, a toothbrush, a change of clothes, and so on. So think about that also in your carry-on bag. So I also want to talk about this I-94. I-94 is a document that is very specific to the United States. And this is a document that is online. So when you get to the United States, this is not something that immediately, like once you land, you don't need to print this out like in the airport. But once you arrive, you do need to go into the system and put in your biographical information, as you can see listed here, and print out, I would say, multiple copies of this I-94. The I-94 shows that you arrived legally. So in the worst case, if you were ever stopped or questioned, which certainly doesn't happen very often, it shows that you were inspected and that you are here legally in your status. You should always carry a copy of this, probably folded up in your passport with you. And then I would keep multiple copies of it. You can always reprint. That's the good thing about the system. But if you have any problems with printing your I-94, your school should be able to provide you assistance. If it's the International Student Office, that's most commonly how, if you have some troubles, like if you look for yourself and you can't find it, you would go to your international office and they would help resolve trying to get your I-94, because it is an important document to show that you've been inspected and that you came in a legal fashion, i.e. you went through the immigration process at the port of entry. And port of entry is a particular term that means you were inspected by a customs officer at the United States border. Wherever you land your first entry to the United States, that's where they will inspect you, and they will hopefully give you an instruction about this, but we have seen sometimes they fail to do so. So we want to let you know that if they don't even give you a document to explain the I-94, this is something that will be important, and the international office can provide you support in retrieving your I-94 if you have problems using the system or you need like printer and so on.
So now that you've arrived in the US, what to expect during your first week. So the first thing, obviously, you're going to come from the airport and everything. You're going to want to get settled into your new housing. So either check into your on-campus housing if that's where you're living, or contact your landlord if you're living off of campus. Checking into your on-campus housing, they're probably going to ask to see your passport, get you checked in, and maybe ask to see your admission letter, just so they can look you up within your specific university or college's system and make sure they're getting you to the right room, making sure that like all your housing options that you've selected are ready for you when you arrive. If you're living off campus, you're going to want to contact your landlord, and it's probably a good idea to contact them before you even leave your home country and say, hey, this is when I'm arriving, this is when my flight gets in, this is when I anticipate being arriving at my house. Could you meet me there? And work out with them where, like, how you're going to do that handoff, because you're going to have to get the keys from them, and at some point you're going to have to do like a walkthrough inspection of your rental property and stuff like that. Those are all things that you should work with your landlord before you leave the country, and then you'll contact them when you arrive just to let them know that you're there and make sure that they yeah, so if you are living in on-campus housing as well, it is mandatory to do the check-in. You can't just like show up and just move into any random room. You will have to do the check-in. Once you arrive on campus, then you'll complete your immigration check-in. So it's not going to be required that the minute that you arrive in the US, you go straight and check in, because sometimes flights get in at night. We understand that. So do your check-in, your immigration check-in at the earliest possible date. So if you arrive on a Monday, plan on the next Tuesday going and doing your immigration check-in. And for that, you will need your I-94 form. That will be mandatory at your check-in because, again, they're going to want to see that you arrived in the U.S. legally.
That was the form we showed you on the last page. And again, if you have difficulties, the international office should be able to assist you because they've seen this many times before and can help you to make sure you access your I-94 if you're having problems. And your university or college should be conveying this information to you as well. If they are not conveying information to you pre-arrival about how your arrival works, you should consider that and reach out to them, because if they're not providing you the information that you need about how it works with check-in, how it works with on-campus housing, you would need to be proactive if that university or college is failing to provide you that information proactively.
And one other thing to expect, there's going to be a lot of activities going on. A lot of them fun, a lot of them mandatory. It's just there's going to be a lot of things going on. So expect your first week to kind of go by pretty quickly, and expect to always have something going on or something just on the horizon there that you're getting ready for. So in the next couple slides, we'll talk about that. But first, we want to talk about arriving to campus. So once you fly in, your next step is going to be getting to campus or getting to your university town if the airport's not in the same city. Some campuses offer, or some colleges offer, an airport shuttle from the local airport or the regional airport that's closest to their campus. There may be a charge for that service, or it may be free. Again, it depends on the individual university, and they're going to be able to tell you that, and they're likely going to make that clear to you in the pre-arrival emails that are going out to you. There are other options available if they don't have one, or if you are arriving at a different time, or you just prefer to do it on your own. There are other options on getting to your new campus. Uber is pretty common in most cities in the US now, and there are probably taxis there as well. Public transportation may be an option, or there's oftentimes at airports there are kiosks or booths that you can ask for shuttle services to a specific area. Again, your university or college will have more information on that, and they may have specific recommendations on which way is easiest, what's the most cost effective, and they'll make that clear. And if you feel that you missed that communication or not, just check in with your university and they'll be able to provide you with that information as well.
the university or college absolutely should provide you this information. And if you feel like you missed the information or you're not clear, the university should be there for you to clarify and to give you the best advice as to how to arrive.
So each university will kind of consider and address some of these issues that are listed on this slide a little bit differently. One of the kind of unique and fun things about higher education in the US is it's kind of customizable to what you're looking for. Each university does it a little bit differently. That can be overwhelming though as you consider that. So some things to keep an eye out for in your email, your pre-arrival emails from your university are orientation obligations. What date do you have to be on campus to start attending orientation? Which of those sessions are mandatory? Which ones are optional? Your course enrollment, how is that going to work? Are you going to know exactly what courses you're enrolled in before you arrive in the US? Or do you do that during your first week during the orientation week? Or do you do it after orientation week? English proficiency requirements. Are you going to be required to take an additional English proficiency test when you arrive on campus? Are they going to use a score that you submitted to them during the application process? Each university is going to handle these three areas very differently. So make sure you get that from your university as well. Housing and meal options, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as well. But each university they may not have on-campus housing, or they may only have on-campus housing. They may have an unlimited meal plan, or maybe they have like a partial meal plan where you're still going to be responsible for cooking meals on the weekends or something. And the local laws and customs. So each area within the US, so each state in the US is going to have laws that are specific to that state. Yes, we have overarching federal laws, but then each individual state is also going to have its own individual state laws, and there may be even be some laws specific to a county or a city as well. So they're going to go over some really important information like that as well with you, and just local customs and whatnot that go on in that specific area, just to make you more comfortable in the area and make sure that you're having a smooth transition, or giving you some things to look out for as you go through. But most importantly on the slide, I would say just check your email frequently for important messages to your university prior to your arrival, because all of these are going to be addressed in some manner from those pre-arrival emails from your university. And again, if you have a question, it's never a bad idea to ask your university. They're never going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're asking another question. No, they're going to welcome that, and it's going to be a welcome relief saying, oh, this person is really interested. They're really excited about arriving. So it's going to be, never feel that you're bothering the university. We want to make sure that you're getting all the information that you feel that you need. So don't ever feel that you're bothering the university to ask them these questions.
Even if they have said something, like they have provided you some information, for example, on course enrollment, but if you have a doubt, do not hesitate to follow up and try to clarify your doubt. That is the responsibility of the college or university to provide you with that support pre-arrival.
So housing and meal options, like I mentioned before, every university and college will handle this completely differently. Their university policies may dictate that, the availability of housing may dictate it, or just the type of housing available may also dictate whether or not you're able to live on campus, off campus, if you're required to live on campus, or maybe they don't have on-campus housing, so you're required to find an area in a house in the surrounding area. So it just really depends on the individual university. There are various types of on-campus housing. So there may be dormitory style, apartment style housing that could be on or off campus. There may be honors housing for students that have a specific GPA, or if they have a specific interest. Maybe they have a section where it's just architecture students living in a specific area, or maybe they have students who are interested in international politics who are living in one specific area. So each university is going to handle it differently. Or maybe if you want to join the Greek system, they have fraternity and sorority housing. Not every university offers that, but some of them, it's a very integral part of their campus life. So just getting to know the different housing options available to you is really, really good.
And for example, there may be housing options that you would not be aware of. For example, just using K-State, we have all women's halls. So if that's something that's more comfortable, you want to ask these questions and find out what are your options in terms of living on campus, living off campus. And many universities do require on-campus housing, which I will explain a little bit later.
And the meal plans, how that's going to work on for you individually is, again, going to depend on your specific university. A lot of universities offer different meal plans because maybe you're the type of person who really likes to cook and you intend on cooking most of your meals. There's no sense in signing up for a meal plan that offers you all of your meals throughout the semester if you just plan on cooking all of your meals anyway. So they may offer you an option that way. Or maybe you're like, I really don't want to have to worry about trying to find the time to cook. I want to be able to focus on my studies a lot during that first semester. Or I want to be able to make sure that I have enough time to do other things and I just want to grab something on the go because I'm going to be involved in a number of different on-campus activities. Maybe a meal plan may be the best option for you. Some universities also offer the option to use your meal credits at the local student union or at local shops and restaurants around town. So getting to know exactly what the meal plan offers is a good idea, but again, every university is going to do it differently, so that would be something to really research as you're arriving to campus as well.
And in addition, if you are considering meal plans, you also want to clarify whether the housing you will live in has a kitchen. Because if your housing does not have a kitchen, you will be unable to cook. So that's just another thing to figure out.
And last but not least, always check with your university and the dining services department on dietary needs. If you have a specific dietary preference for religion, or if you have it for health reasons, or just for your own personal preference, let them know that, because a lot of times universities are more than willing to accommodate to that. But definitely check in with your dining services department to make sure that if there is a specific dietary preference that you have, that you make it clear to the housing. They're your dining services department.
Yeah, and just to explain that a little further, I mean, K-State recently has been very proud to announce that we have halal-based meal offerings in our dormitories, and that's something important. Like, if that is something important to you, that is something you want to ask when you're making your decision about the proper college or university for you.
So getting involved on campus, as I mentioned before, there's a ton of different opportunities that you can get involved in on campus. For instance, here at K-State, we have over 475 different student clubs and organizations. And each one of the options or the examples listed here is an example of a club or organization that we have here at K-State. So for instance, if you want to practice English with an American, we have a club that's available for that. And each university is going to kind of, again, address these differently, but there's going to be so many opportunities it may seem overwhelming at first, but don't let the sheer number of opportunities available get in your way. We're used to like you coming in saying, I kind of just want to experience this a little bit, but maybe I don't want to dive in head first. You can experience all of these as much or as little as you want to. They have options to take weekend trips, to teach other people about your culture, to get more involved in the American culture, take on some leadership roles. You can get involved in student government and help the student fees that you pay every semester, help allocate those out so you're feeling that your voice is being heard as a student, or that you're representing the specific subsect of the student population, that you feel that voice is being heard as well. You can also work on campus. Your student visa does allow you to work up to 20 hours per week on campus. So it's a really good option to gain some experience to put on your resume to make you as employable as possible when you graduate. Keep physically active. There's probably going to be like maybe a running club or intramural sports that are going on, or you can just go to the rec services area on campus and play tennis, basketball, volleyball, whatever your interests are. There's probably going to be some sort of activity that you can get involved in there just to stay physically active and continue kind of getting your heart rate up and getting those endorphins going. Or join an interest group. And a lot of clubs on campus, they start out really small because one student's like, I feel like we're missing this area of interest at my university, and they start that club. So most universities are going to offer you that opportunity to be able to start that club, and kind of spread the word about whatever you're interested in. If you want to start a student organization for students from your country, or to spread awareness of your culture, universities are going to welcome that. So don't be afraid to go out and say, hey, I want to start this club or organization. Your faculty, your advisors, the university is really going to support that a lot.
For example, let's say you go to a smaller college and you find that there's no student club or intramural sports team that's related to cricket, and cricket is your passion. There should absolutely be a student leadership office that can help you to develop that club and, in fact, create a leadership opportunity for you while you are also gaining your physical activity and your social support at the same time. So it pretty much every college or university, they should be offering you the opportunity to create organizations that do not exist. So I would like to talk a little bit about just some things we know from our experience about how to develop the smoothest transition to your new environment. First, I would like to say it's not always smooth, and that is normal. But the best way to adjust is to have new support systems. As Logan was mentioning, in your first few weeks, it's going to be a whirlwind. You will be dealing probably with jet lag if you're coming from an area that's far away from your college or university. And you'll be dealing with just an entirely new system, a new system of higher ed, a new environment regionally, just a completely different culture. So the key thing for me, I will speak personally, I'm a shy person, and it's difficult for me to reach out to people. But what I would encourage you to do based on my experience is try your best in that initial phase before your courses start. If you have non-mandatory social activities, try your best to go to a couple of them, because there are people there that are also in the exact same situation as you. And these may be key people that you can talk to, and whether or not they come from your home country, that they can relate to how you're feeling right now. One of the reasons why some schools require on-campus housing is because of the support system in on-campus housing, because most of the students that are housed together are in their first year, whether they are coming from a domestic, i.e. somewhere in the United States, or if they're coming from another country. They're all experiencing kind of this new shock of the system, and everyone is looking for support. You also, in on-campus housing, you have a more senior student who oversees your hall generally, the hall that you live in, and will be there for you sort of as an advisor about social and about how to deal with the adjustment, and that person is trained and well prepared to help you. And as we mentioned, recreation generally, I haven't heard of a case otherwise. Colleges and universities have recreational facilities that are included in your tuition and fees. So you should absolutely try to take care of yourself physically and do exercise, whether that's at the recreation center, whether that's, just walking with friends, and then mentally as well. Make sure that you are in touch with your family, but also in touch with new people, trying to make connections in your new environment. Because when you have your classes start, that will be another factor in terms of dealing with stress, and you want to have some kind of support system locally as well. Being open-minded and being flexible and adaptable is key to consider and key to kind of think about before you arrive. And I will talk about that a little more on our following slide. Expressing your feelings. Most colleges, I would say, again, almost every that I'm aware of, should offer support. If it's the international office, if it's a counseling center, if it's there are various, if it's accommodations, if you happen to have a disability or feel that you're having issues with, English language or these types of things, there should be support services that are associated with the university and that are free of charge to you based on your tuition and fees. So take advantage of expressing your feelings, whether it's to a professional at the university or college, or whether it's to new friends that you've made who are also feeling the same thing. Sometimes that's the best thing, is to just know that you're not alone in some of the mixed feelings that you have about your new journey. Develop a routine, as I said. Try to, once your school starts, try to keep your study habits routine. It's, of course, difficult for all students. Procrastination is something that happens, but you want to try to keep up on your studies. Reach out to your professors, express your feelings there too. Professors here offer office hours, and professors are often disappointed that students don't ever come to them during their office hours and talk about their concerns. So if you go and you feel, you say to a professor, like, I'm concerned about how I'm going to do in this class, or I'm concerned about the last, class that we had and whether I understand. Professors are very, very happy to receive you and to try to help you through that course, rather than just kind of hiding and pretending it's not happening until later on when it becomes a bigger issue. So develop a routine of study, develop a routine of talking to people who are local, and also keep in touch with your family at home. Keeping a journal, I would recommend, because I think it's very beneficial to just record how you're feeling. Sometimes that's very therapeutic, just to express, whatever you're feeling at the time. And it's also pretty amazing when you read back in your writings to see your progression and see how you grow throughout this experience. So, and I wanted to talk about this cultural adjustment issue. So cultural adjustment is inevitable. That means it will happen. You will experience some issues with cultural adjustment. Even I am born in the United States in New York City, and when I came to Kansas, I had a culture shock. It's a diverse country, and the places that I've moved throughout the United States, there's culture shock here. So you will inevitably, absolutely experience some kind of culture shock. There are different theories in terms of how culture shock works, cultural adjustment. And some say you start out feeling super happy and super excited, and then there'll be some confrontation. The confrontation could be when you meet your class schedule and you're starting to feel overwhelmed by it. But the idea is, in general, you adjust and you adapt. So there is the main point here that I would like to say is, when you experience a low, the high and low, these are normal. And in fact, if you do not experience a high and low, that would be weird. And so my advice to you is just prepare that this is part of the experience of studying abroad, and it's part of the benefit of studying abroad. And what will make you stronger and like a better person in the future is to overcome these issues and to be able to express how you deal with different cultures and how you can be flexible and adjust and adapt in different situations, whether it's in a new country or whether it's in just a new, let's say, profession. So there's a different approach to cultural adjustment. And this one, I actually feel personally, I've experienced more. And what this one kind of shows is there are ups and downs. There are ups and downs, and it occurs sometimes, throughout your experience. And But generally, you will be continuing to adjust. So you will be continuing to go in a positive direction, but that there will be ups and downs rather than just like a straight down and then an absolute up. That there will be some things that might trigger you, like, oh, I'm extremely stressed out about this exam, and I was feeling better before, now I'm not feeling so great. And this is a model that personally, as I said, I think is a little more accurate from my own experience. And again, the support systems that you develop and your routines that you develop are key to try to combat the negative feelings that you essentially will at some point feel. And as I said before, this is completely natural, and my advice to you is just to prepare for it. That's all you can do, is just prepare that there will be a little bit of adjustment, and that's normal, completely normal, and everyone experiences it. So reach out to the support systems that are available to you, whether it's friends, whether it's the university or college support systems, whether it's your family back home, and just be prepared for this when you are thinking about arriving and starting your new program in the United States. So I think this concludes our webinar, and we wanted just to give you our contact information. If you have questions about the things that we've said, we are happy to provide more information to you. These are the ways you can reach us at Kansas State University. And we really thank you for listening, and we hope it was helpful to you. And again, if there's anything that you'd like to talk further with us about, please follow up. Logan, would you like to say anything else?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Kristen said. Thank you for attending, and let us know if you have any questions, whether it's about K-State specifically or if it's about just U.S. higher education in general, the different types of things. We're more than happy to answer your questions, because we know it can be a transition, and kind of like it's a little unsettling at times trying to make those trying to just look at things online. So if you want to actually talk to a person, feel free to give us a phone call, or if you have any specific questions, shoot us an email.
All right, well, thank you very much, and we are here for you, and we hope that this was helpful, and we wish you the very best in your pursuit of higher education, and everything great for you in the future. Take care.